Welcome everybody to our final session of the 2021 Self-Direction Virtual Conference Series. My name is Molly Morris. I'm a Senior Technical Assistance Consultant at Applied Self-Direction. Thank you so much for joining us today for the session, Facilitating Greater
Meeting is being recorded.
The Integral Role of Support Brokers. I'm just going to run through a few quick housekeeping issues before we get started. You can submit your questions and comments at any time during the session by using the chat box in Zoom. And if you experience any audio or technical issues during today's presentation, you can send us a message again by using the chat box or by emailing us at info@appliedselfdirection.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you. So I'm just delighted to introduce our moderator today. We're honored to have Tina Seidel as our moderator. She is a member with Applied Self-Direction as the Compliance and Policy Director with United Disability Services. She is the president of the Pennsylvania Providers Coalition Association, which brings together community providers of long-term services. Tina has been a dedicated advocate for the independent living movement since she was a young girl, and she has deep expertise in self-direction. We are so glad to have Tina here to guide our discussion today. So Tina, thank you for being here, and I'm going to pass it off to you to introduce our panelists.
Well, thank you, Molly. So welcome everyone to a warm afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. And we're very appreciative that you joined today to learn more about Support Broker. And on our panel today is individuals and support brokers from Pennsylvania and Missouri, whom are going to be able to share their stories and experiences as they live the role of utilizing the self-direction services and in their role of support broker in their own words. So at this point, I'd like to begin to introduce the Pennsylvania panel, and I'm going to hand it over to Brad.
Hi, my name is Brad Beck. I'm a supports broker in Pennsylvania. And I have with me William Brewer, who is a person who I support. Along with him is Eugenia, who is his support worker, who's going to be helping him communicate today. And also his mother, Terry Brewer, is here as well.
So welcome to all of you. Eugenia.
Hello, my name is William. I am a National Fellow recipient, artist, and art teacher. It is great to be here. I want to introduce my art teacher, Eugenia. I have known her since 2015 and she helps me work in my studio and my fellowship. Everyday artist.
Thank you, William. So next, we're going to move to the Missouri panel, and I'd like to hand it over to Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Wooders. I've been in support broker for almost 6 years now, and I work for Learning Opportunities and Quality Works. And with me is Vicki. She's one of my designated representatives, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Vicki Robinson, and been working with Mark for some time now with the direct support for my son, Logan, and everything's going very well. So glad to be here today.
Thank you, Vicki. So I want to pass it back to Brad because we were pleased that William's mother, Terry, was able to now join us today. So Brad, could you pass it to Terry?
Yes, Terry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Terry Brewer. I live in Pennsylvania, and I have been the common law employer for William and been using self-direction for, what, 5 years at least?
Closer to like 7.
Oh.
Yeah. I've been keeping track.
Okay.
With that, we're going to start the stories, and beginning is William, who would like to tell you his experiences and story in his own words. So I'm passing it over to you, William.
Bradley, my support broker, helps me with hired people like Eugenia and Jesse. Listen to me. Help me move into an apartment. Help with my art. Help me with getting into art shows. And help me with meeting new people. I went to an art program called Oasis. I went there until it shut down in 2014. Then, Bradley hired a new art teacher, Melissa Walker. She taught me how to paint. I learned that I love art and I wanted it to be my job. I tried a program called Ideate until I decided to leave in 2018 and start working in my own studio. There, I learned many different kinds of art. I won a national fellowship and met new people. Bradley hired people to take me there and work with me. If I had the choice to go back to my program, I would choose my art studio every time. Bradley is a nice man because he listens to me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, William. And I want to share with those who are in attendance that if you have any questions for William, we ask that you submit them through chat as soon as you may be able to, as he needs some time to be able to answer the questions. So if you have any questions, please put them into chat so that he has an opportunity to answer them. So with that, I'm going to now move over to Missouri and ask some questions of Victoria.
Okay.
So Victoria, how did your family find out about support broker services?
We found out Mark was our son's professional manager. And so he asked me one day if I knew anything about support broker services. And I didn't. So he talked to me a little bit about the services that a support broker does, and such as what my part would be as far as learning the computer system. And he would help me do that, being able to do our monthlies and the input on the computer that I needed. So I found out from Mark, who was the professional manager for our son.
Thank you. How has Mark, as your support broker, helped in the process?
He's been very instrumental in helping me when I was having difficulties with the computer program. I could either call or text him and he would be able to get back with me and help me. And that happened several times. It was a little more difficult of a program than I was used to. So he helps me with that.
And how has your life and your loved one's life changed after getting involved with self-direction through and having the support broker?
It has changed a lot. It's been really wonderful. I can communicate with the personal assistant that takes care of my son, and she can take him. There's just so many, such a variety of things that they can do, and so we can kind of keep in contact with each other. And Logan has done very, very well with her. So anyway, things have gone well in that respect.
So can you share tasks that Mark, as the support broker, supports your family to be successful in the self-direction and or the agency with choice model? I believe you're in the self-direction model in Missouri. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes, he most of the support I get from him is with the computer program. If I have issues with it, or if it's, we're having problems getting logged on, or whatever it is, he helps me with that.
And what do you think makes a good support broker?
I think a good support broker is important because they have the knowledge it takes for me to be able to do what I need to do to complete my reports in a timely manner. And we probably would not be able to do this without having a self-direct support broker. So it's been it's been really, really good to have him.
Thank you. Is there anything more you'd like to share before we move it back over to potentially Terry in Pennsylvania?
Not that I can think of at this time.
Okay, there might be some questions that end up coming in. Terry, is there anything you would just like to share at this point? Or do you want me to move to the support broker and maybe chime in when we move through that process?
Well, it seems as though, I guess states operate a lot differently. Bradley has been instrumental in helping William to hire staff, placing ads, helping with the entire hiring process. And he's been just instrumental in the support that he has given to both William and myself as a common law employer.
I really appreciate you sharing, and feel free to, either of you to chime in at any point during the rest of this process if there's something that comes to mind. So now we're going to move over to the support broker role, and we're going to move towards Brad and to Mark, and with some questions. And so we'll start with Brad. And I wanted to ask, what led you to serving as a support broker, and how long have you been in this role?
I've been a supports broker for 8 years, and what led me to become a supports broker, I had worked as a direct support professional at very traditional providers, group home type places for 15 years. And I felt after, as I was getting along, I wanted to move in a different direction. I thought that I might be good at either training or recruiting workers, because I felt I knew, what it took to be a good worker. But then eventually I found an incredible agency in Pennsylvania called Values into Action, and they introduced me to the concept of self-direction, which I had never heard before, even though I'd been working in the field for over a decade. The idea that people would make their own decisions, hire their own workers, and live their life on their terms as opposed to someone else's. And then when I heard about supports broker, it just brought everything together that I was looking for, because it doesn't involve recruiting, it involves training, and it involves supporting families and helping, and also spending a lot of time with the individuals that I support, like William. So, and I'm no longer with Values. I was there for a few years, but they still are providing that service and doing a great job at it.
Thank you. And Mark, the same question.
Well, I've been doing support broker services for, just like I said, just almost 6 years now. And I'm actually still an active professional manager. I work as an agency support broker with LFQW, with Learning Opportunities and Quality Work. And what moved me to do the job was just, kind of the same stuff what Brad said. It gives me the opportunity to work directly with families, help them hire and find new staff, and help them find the people that they're looking for to take care of their loved ones and to work with their loved ones. And it's really a self-gratifying job that it means a lot to be right there on the front lines with them. Like Vicki said, I help them with the computer programs. And it means a lot to me to watch my individuals grow in the process to where one day, they won't need me no more, which I hope that never happens, but it will. One day they won't need me no more, and I will move to another family. Currently, I have 23 support broker clients that I currently work with, and majority of them, like Vicki said, they have my cell phone. They can call me, they can text me. I will answer them back either by, okay, we need to make an appointment, and I'll come out there and personally work with them whenever they need it. I'm really at their desired needs. I do a lot of my support broker stuff is after when I'm done at work. I will go out to families when they're done working and they don't have to take time off of work to meet with me. I can meet with them on their terms after hours. But it means a lot to me to be a support broker and to work with the self-direct services, because it does truly give the clients the desire, or not the desire, but the self-choice to do, to pick their own staff and to do what they want to do, really.
And so, Mark, I'm going to continue with you. In Missouri, how is the support broker role different from a traditional support coordinator?
It differs that, well, the support coordinator, they're really working with the ISP, setting up the individual support plans, getting the funding and everything that they need to do to get them into waivers and waiver services. As a support broker, I'm really going to work. I'm right down there in the dirt with the individuals. I'm going through the computer with them. I'm helping them navigate through the systems, where the service coordinators don't have that type of time that I have on my hands, to where I can work individually with the clients and help them, hire and fire workers. I have a network of workers here that I can pull from to help, if that person is a good fit. I help them with the interviewing. I do a pre-interview myself, but they do the final interview, and I help them prepare questions and stuff like that. But it's really the difference is I'm more personal and with the individuals all the time, helping them. Where the service coordinator is doesn't quite have the time that I have to be able to assist the people, the clients.
And Brad, I'm going to pass it over to you for the perspective from Pennsylvania with the same question of how is a support broker different from a traditional support coordinator?
So I would say what I was going to say is identical to what Mark was saying. It's more the support coordinator is looking at it from that macro point of view of setting up the individual service plan, making sure the services are in there, getting the funding, and then finding providers to provide that service. In our case, the provider is Palco. They are the financial management service, and finding the individual workers that falls to me, or it could fall to the CLE, the common law employer, the mom in this case. They might have people that they have in mind. I would like to know, because Terry's had only, as far as I know, one support broker, which is me, but then a number of support coordinators over the years, and a lot of support coordinators before I came on board. So maybe you might have a thought on that.
There's a vast difference. It's huge. The support broker, Bradley in this case, it's more personal. They meet more often on an as-needed basis. And I feel that Bradley knows William better than any of the support coordinators that we've had. Since Bradley has been on board, William has had a total of 4 or 5 support coordinators, and Bradley is able to navigate any issues. Sometimes issues come up that need to be addressed, and it's just good to have that backup that Bradley provides. And I can say that I don't think that William would have or would be as far along as he is in terms of his art and his desires and what he wants to do and the choices that he's made without the support of Bradley.
Thank you very much, Terry. So now I'm going to stay with Brad and ask, how is an individual given the choice of a support broker in Pennsylvania?
So this really comes down to the knowledge of the support coordinator. Their support coordinator or case manager has to be aware of the service. I don't know if 100% of support coordinators who are working with people who self-direct know about support brokering. I definitely know 8 years ago it was a very low percentage. I think it's raised a lot over the years, but that also, it's through outreach like programs like this, and it has expanded to different parts of the state over time. And then the support coordinator, the easiest thing for them to do is go in our state system to see what providers of supports brokering are available, available to work in that specific county. But that doesn't account for every supports broker. There are agencies that have many supports brokers. There are single supports brokers who are providers and are listed in the state directory. But then there are also dozens of supports brokers, of which I myself am one of them, who are independent. We work directly for the family. We don't work for any agency. We get hired just like a regular support worker. And the only way that they would be able to find us is if the supports coordinator knew of us. Maybe they were asking around at their agency, do you know any good supports brokers? Or maybe they, in Terry's case, we met at an actual event in a church basement 7-8 years ago, where she was giving a talk on self-direction and I was, introducing myself as a broker. So it can be a little tough, but there are so many more supports brokers, over the last 8 years that hopefully people will at least have someone available to them at this point if they want one.
Thank you. I'm going to move that over to Mark and ask the same thing for Missouri. How is individual given the choice of a support broker in your state?
So in our state, it's just like Pennsylvania. There's many different ways. I've actually introduced myself as a support broker to an individual that was in self-direct and they were struggling with the different papers and all the paperwork and all the computer programs. And I introduced them to myself, and that's one way that it happens here. But for the most part, the support broker services are brought up during our annual ISP meetings. We're always talking about self-direct services because we really feel that is the big push that we're trying to get everybody to understand that self-direct services, you have more choices in that. So we bring it up in our ISP meetings all the time. Recently, a lot of the support broker clients that I've picked up is I've actually went over and talked to my service coordinators and let them know what I do as a support broker. And if they have clients out there that are struggling or even think they're going to struggle with the stuff, that they need to be talking to them about picking up a support broker. So it's brought up in our ISP meetings. Then I bring it up when I'm talking with individuals. Also, just like Vicki said, we talked about self-direct services for a long time while her son was in traditional services, because the ability to meet his needs wasn't there trying to do traditional services, and it was able to be met with self-direct. So we talked about that, and then Vicki voiced the concern that that's a lot of paperwork. A lot of people get scared of the paperwork, and I said, well, that's where you can get a support broker, and the support broker will assist you with the paperwork. We can't do it for you, but we can assist and help them understand and get into the ability to be able to do it on their own. So it's, we introduce it several different ways here in Missouri. I mean, for the most part, it's by word of mouth through different meetings that we have.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to stay with you and ask you, how do you approach supporting someone who is entirely new to self-direction and may be uncertain about his or her new responsibilities?
Well, and that's kind of unique because I just started a new client just a few days ago. We'll get all the traditional paperwork out of the way, and then once we get all that stuff out of the way, we get down into the nitty-gritties, and we really talk about what their roles are going to be, what they have to accomplish, as in for the monthly, writing the monthlies and approving the timesheets and managing the budget. So we talk about all that, and I help them get it all set up. I show them the different budget calculators that are provided out there for services that they have, how to figure out, to set someone's salary, or their pay. So we go through that really in depth. I have a little book that I go through with them that has, and I talk about what I do to help them. But that's what we do here. That's what I do.
And Brad, what about in Pennsylvania?
It's the same thing once again, but I definitely want to meet with the common law employer, anyone that's involved with helping the person self-direct, and really lay down what the responsibilities are. I had an issue, family I worked with last year. I was brought on board. They had already been self-directing for a couple months, but the common law employer, the mom in this case, she felt like no one had told her what she was in for when she became a common law employer. And in her case, she really wasn't able to carry out these responsibilities. And so by sitting with someone at the beginning and saying that you're going to need to approve timesheets, you're going to need to write reports. In Pennsylvania, it's quarterly. You're going to have to keep service notes on a daily basis for every time service is performed. And I can help out with certain things like that. I mean, I can't approve timesheets, and I'm not going to write reports for people, but I can at least help them set up a template for the reports and a template for the service notes and things like that. But there are a lot of responsibilities. It's definitely going to take a number of hours out of the week, and it's going to involve, some level of knowledge of computers and things like that. And just letting people know that, and another big thing is that service isn't guaranteed. This isn't a provider. So if you have, one worker or two workers that work for you, and one of them quits without giving notice, I can try to find a worker for you as quickly as possible. I certainly will. But this isn't a traditional provider where, I mean, when I was at different providers in the past, if we were short staffed, you might have the CEO of the whole organization pulling a shift because they have to stay in ratio, so to speak. But in self-direction, it really, that's not guaranteed. And ultimately it's going to be family members, if you have people available, providing that supervision if workers can't come in. So that's just those types of things. You have to let people know ahead of time. There's a lot of freedom involved with self-direction, but there's also a ton of responsibility.
Have you had any experience in supporting someone who is experienced in self-directing and, let's say, knows the ropes of the program well and still wants to utilize you as a support broker?
Yeah, and usually that involves the hiring process. If they have their own service notes ready to go and the workers are using them and they understand how to do the timesheets, they understand how to call the financial management service when an issue arises, things like that, that's fine. But usually it's the hiring process, recruiting workers, trying to figure out what hours are needed, making sure, working with the support coordinator to see that there's money in the budget for it, there's hours in the budget, and then just finding someone who is going to match with that person on an individual basis. I mean, if you look at Eugenia and William right now, I don't think there's ever been a better match in that I've personally made in terms of a worker who is so in tune with the person she supports and is able to, just connect with him on that level and help get the most out of him. I was just watching a video yesterday of this art studio that they work in their community during the day. And it's something I could have never dreamed of. And that's the type of thing, that I can help even an experienced common law employer with, is that recruiting aspect of the job.
And Mark, is there anything more you would want to say to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add, I mean, I've had the opportunity to work with several individuals that are experienced in the system. And a lot of times, like recently, we just changed the fiscal management company here in Missouri. So a lot of people were looking for the expertise in navigating the new fiscal manager. and that's where a lot of people, a lot of the experienced ones picked up a support broker or myself to help them navigate a new system because it was very, very confusing, and it wasn't the normal what they were used to. So it was a lot of moving parts that they had to get used to. And I know at least one of the families that I assisted, they told me once I got them up and running that they would have never been able to do that by themselves. It was just so many different moving parts and not knowing who to call and stuff like that, where I came in with the knowledge of knowing the system and knowing who to call and was able to make contacts to successfully get them through the new fiscal management startup and everything.
So I'm going to stay with you and ask you, what do you wish people or attendees in this session might be able to understand better about self-direction and support brokers?
I guess the biggest thing is under the self-direct, it's really, the program is really designated or set for the individual. It's made for the family individual to be able to do what they want to do. It has a wide variety of stuff that we can do and accomplish. As for a support broker, our job is to assist you to get through all the little trials and errors that we run into, clocking in and out, doing the EVV process, writing the monthlies, not write them, but help them write them and help them make sure all the correct information is in the monthly that's required by the different states. It's really, it's an awesome service when it's up and running and it's running great. It is very scary at the beginning because there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of moving parts, but with a support broker, that I think that calms the scary part of it down, and it makes it so much easier for them to navigate once they have a support broker to be there to help them get through everything.
And Brad, I'm going to move over to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, asked you the same thing, is what could you say that you wish others understood better potentially about self-direction and a support broker?
Well, I would say as far as self-direction goes, I think if you give people the ability to make their own decisions and choose their own workers at that, really close to home level, they're going to make decisions that are in their best interest. They're going to find people who have the same interests, who are going to support them well. I think, I don't know if states in the past were reluctant to trust people with that type of responsibility, or if they wanted to go to a traditional provider. But from what I've seen personally, and I work with about 17 families now, and there's probably a dozen families I've worked in the past who I don't work with anymore. I've seen them all make excellent decisions, life-changing decisions. And as far as supports brokers go, I think it's a great thing to have supports brokers in Pennsylvania, because we're able to support so many people in, I guess, if someone has an issue, and sometimes it'll happen with some of the families I support, there'll be some big issue, something they're dealing with, and then 3 months later I find out about it. They said, well, I didn't want to tell you. And I said, well, what did you hire me for? I'm your supports broker. This issue that you've been dealing with and you've had such a hard time trying to solve, I've had that issue come up 5 different times with different other families I've worked with, so I know how to solve it very quickly. And that's, I feel like it can be like a cost-effective thing for states to have support brokers, because we can work with so many people. I'm not, trying to find, and I know Mark was working with 23 people, we're not trying to find work to do with the people we work with. They are coming to us, and we're able to, support them when they need it. And I try to anticipate things in the future too. I don't want to, only put out fires. I want to anticipate things, but there's so much supporting to do, and just, helping families, even if it's just, an hour or 2 a week with some families, just helping them get through it, it makes a big difference. And Terry, do you have anything about that?
And one thing I wanted to add was, a lot of people have a budget that they have to, unless you have a consolidated waiver, and even that is based on your need. But by using self-direction, I have found that I have been able to have more services provided for William. He made a decision to change from a traditional provider to setting his own schedule and working the hours that worked best for him, rather than a set schedule of picked up at 9, home by 3. And also with that, I am able, as a common law employer, to pay people a decent wage. There is a range that we have to work in, but I can pick, based on the budget, a wage that will make people, hopefully be able to live off of and want to stay.
That's an excellent point that hadn't been brought up previously, that you get to select the pay rates for employees and they can be different as well. Is that accurate?
Exactly. They do. Pennsylvania does give you a range for each, what you can pay, but I don't have to pick the lowest range. I can pick somewhere in the middle so that I have the ability to give people raises.
And I'd just like to add that for a traditional provider, I don't want to get into the numbers here, but their flat rate that they get paid per 15-minute unit is higher than the highest we could pay someone using the either financial management service, PALCO, or agency with choice. So it definitely is cost effective. And I know that the supports broker is on top of that, but I at most I do, on average, I probably do 8 or 10 hours per month with the average family I support. And that's really, it goes higher if we're, in that mode of where we're recruiting and hiring people. And then if everything's going well, it's usually a little bit under that.
So Brad, you just mentioned agency with choice. So in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, support broker can be used in both the traditional, what we consider the traditional self-direction model, and also the agency with choice model.
Yes.
And can you explain any difference between the two models?
Yes, it's a huge difference. So in the case of the PALCO model, that's the current vendor, Terry is the common law employer, which means she is literally my boss. She is literally Eugenia's boss, and she approves our paychecks, and she has unemployment and workers' compensation insurance that is paid for on her behalf through the waiver, and she has all of those responsibilities. With the agency with choice, which in the arc of Chester County for the most of Southeast Pennsylvania, at least our counties, they are the employer of record. So if you were a worker there, you'd fill out an application with them. You would actually meet with them. The pay range is still chosen by the managing employer in this case, although the top rate is a little lower. And the service notes would still be completed, but the service notes are notes that are created by the agency themselves. They're not created by the sports broker or the common law employer. So they have to be filled out. They have to be approved by the managing employer in this case. And then they are sent to the agency with choice, where they will review them before any timesheets are approved. And so it does a little, there is less liability for the employer, the parent in this case, because if they decide to let someone go, any type of unemployment claims, it doesn't really affect them in any way. It only goes to the agency with choice, or workers' compensation for that. Okay.
So how it has sounded throughout this panel is that in some ways you're assisting individuals to maintain their dignity and independence in the setting of their choice, and assisting them in navigating the regulations and rules of the programs and the common and being a common law employer. Is that accurate?
I would say so. One thing I wanted to add too about just agency with choice is their service is slightly higher. It costs a little bit more. So families with the cap, there in Pennsylvania, we have a waiver that's capped at like $33,000 or $34,000. That lowest waiver, a lot of families will opt for the other service because they can get a couple more hours per week of service out of it. So sorry to
No,
not
that's
answer
a
your
good
question
point.
there, but I just wanted to, because I work with pretty much exclusively families who use the PALCO service, but it's generally because they started out in that lower money waiver, and we're really needing to use as much service as possible. So it's not a value judgment on the other service.
And one thing I'd like to add too is that when William was using a traditional provider and he was doing his art, it got to the point where he could only go not even once a week, and because all the money went to the traditional provider, where when we switched, he has support 4 days a week for 8 hours a day. So it's a big difference, and it all paid fell underneath the cap. He was able to get the services, and again, I could pay the workers a decent wage.
Yeah, I agree with Terry, being able to pay, the worker a decent wage. We did not start at the bottom because I thought, if we started at the bottom, they're going to stay a couple months and then they're going to find something making more money. So, we kind of did a middle of the road wage, hoping that they would, be able to live off of that. And, and if things go, well, then we can always give them a raise if we want to. So that's really, really nice.
So I wanted to ask, does anyone on the panel have any final comments or anything they would like to share before we bring Molly back for any questions that may have been submitted?
I don't have any right now.
I don't know if I mean, we have Eugenia is in the role of someone who works as a direct support professional and she's worked with a number of people in this model, in this participant directed services model. Do you have any thoughts on what it's like to work in the, as a worker in this field?
Or else, right, or what brought you into this field as well?
Oh, you're muted. Oh, there you go. You're good.
Okay, I can unmute. Well, I can thank Bradley for actually bringing me in. He saw that I had a creative side, and in August of 2015, I saw you, Will, and I saw your work, and I was really enamored. And it really opened a lot of doors, seeing what we could do through self-directed, because I've also worked with Will at a provider. And yeah, everything that Bradley and Terry has said, it's the same thing. A lot of that rate that's billed at 15 minutes, even though 15 minutes doesn't go to the worker. And working under Terry, she was able to really set my rate at what was deserved, I think. But, it was a much more open relationship where we could test out different things. And, I do believe going to his own studio led to William getting national fellowship, curating an art show, writing a book, teaching art workshops. And I think providers do a great thing for certain people, but I think also, everyone deserves their own customized service. And seeing the success from Will, working for Terry and knowing her, as not just a boss, but I would say also as for nearly 7 years. I am very happy, you know, with their choices as a common law employer, and also Williams boss. Moderate pay. Pain? Are you in pain?
And I just want to add to that real
okay.
quick. I do think that, and I was a worker for, you know, quite some time in traditional providers. I like to think I was an excellent support worker, but there is a level of investment that that many of my workers have that goes so far beyond the time they clock in and clock out. I've seen so many workers really spend time where they're off the clock, developing things to help the people they support, developing a real relationship with them that lasts beyond, you know, the time that they work with him. One of, you know, William's first worker that he had as when he started self-direction, Melissa, she worked with him for a few years. She graduated college, she moved on. She is still, you know, remained a part of his life, you know, still supporting him and looking out for him. And I know that'll happen when Eugenia moves on, and if I ever move on someday, it'll be the same thing. So, and I've seen that with so many different people I support. It's just a different relationship, really special.
So at this point, we're going to ask Molly to return to see if there has been any questions submitted throughout the presentation.
Great, thank you, Tina, and thank you everybody for just a wonderful discussion so far. I know I've been really interested in hearing what you all had to say. We've had a lot of questions, so we'll get to as many as we can. And I'll also note that as I'm reading questions, we're going to copy them in the chat box if you'd like to read along as I read them out loud. So I have question number 1 for William. Why do you think Brad is a good support broker? What does he do that makes him good at his job? I am done talking.
She's done asking a question. Can you lean forward so people can hear your iPad? Are you ready to give your answer to question number 1?
Bradley is good at his job because he listens to me. He helps me move to my apartment. He respects my life my way.
Wonderful. Thank you, William. A follow-up question we had that I believe was for Vicki, based on when it came up. What does Vicki mean by computer program? Is this for payroll, managing the budget, scheduling, communication? Could you talk a little more about that, Vicki?
Well, actually, it's the program that I have to use in order to check the notes that Logan's staff has put in. Like if she goes and sees him from 2 to 5 on Monday, she has to put those notes in the program, and then I have to go back in and look and you know, well, did she really spend that much time with him? Was it, you know, did she do what she was needing to do? And then I have to approve that, but then I also have to go in to where the budget is on a monthly basis and enter in my thoughts for what she did for the entire month. And if I have any input as far as, you know, I feel like, you know, maybe they could, for instance, exercise. We haven't, with the COVID and everything and other issues, you know, I felt like Logan needed to have more exercise and get out. And so that was one thing I was able to put in my monthlies when I wrote them up. And then I have to put in the financial part. So that's what I do with the program. And then I approve that or send that in, and that gets approved by.
To help Vicki out,
Yeah.
you know, that gets approved by the service coordinators. They go back and review it all, make sure the monthlies are correct, and they can look at all that. But the program that she's talking about is our fiscal manager. They have a set program that provides access to review all the notes, payroll, and everything, and set up payroll and all that. That's what she's talking about when she mentions the program, the computer program.
Great, thank you guys for clarifying that. Another question we got. For support brokers who work with people who have a developmental disability, how do you help people and their families figure out how to fill their days, especially if they haven't had a great track record with being successfully included in their neighborhood or have just transitioned out of a segregated school experience?
I can answer that. So I am working right now with a person who just graduated from high school in June. She's 21. That's when people age out in Pennsylvania, at least. And so it is this question of, okay, well, she had, probably 35 hours a week there of her time that was filled and very structured for almost all of her life. And now we have to figure out what she's going to do with a budget that's probably a lot less than what she had to do with in school. So it's about finding activities in the community that she connects with. There were a couple things she was doing in school that we worked with those people to have that continue on after she was done with school. One was volunteering for a few hours a week at a community center, doing specific acts. Another was volunteering at a preschool, working with children, working on a volunteer basis at a pool that she belongs to. So just finding ways for her to engage with places she likes, and then seeing if there's a need for paid support during that time. If there's not, if we can rely on people that are there who know her and know her abilities and know how she can be helped. That's a big benefit to us, because if someone doesn't need to have someone supporting them 24/7, we certainly don't want to kind of put that on them. We wouldn't want that in their own lives. And then just finding out then what types of activities she likes to do during the rest of the time. And if it's things that involve going out in the community, just finding people that are available in that hours and, that enjoy, that they connect with, and having them come on board. I hope I answered the question.
I can add to that too, to help with Brad. So some of the things I've done to help people get into the community, I've passed along, applications for Special Olympics. When I'm talking with the families and I'm helping them to define their goals and needs and preferences, we look at all that stuff and we try to figure out what they want to do in the community and what they want to get out of the services that they have, or out of the support self-direct services. So, like I said, I have a whole bunch of stuff here that in my office that I pass on to my clients all the time. Special Olympics. We had art walk not too long ago that I passed along. If I have individuals that like art, and William would have been able to wish he was here because he could have displayed his artwork for us. It would have been awesome to have him here and display that. We've had clients get in art shows and and show their artwork and stuff like that. And I just pass that information on as I get it through the different channels, and I pass it on to all my clients to help them become part of the community, because that's what the goal is for everybody to be a big happy community one day.
Another thing on that too is, like, when you were talking about people having a tough time being included in their neighborhood, that, like, Eugenia helped with that, where, like, William is planning on moving out of his house, and he has an area of Philadelphia that he wants to live in. And so he had this art show a couple weeks ago there, and it was Eugenia and William going together to, ask local businesses if they'd, be willing to support this show in any time, or I should say in any way. And, having William be a member of that community, I think it really helped in, like, putting him out there. I thought, like, oh, I could help out in some way. And then I realized, oh, it'd be better to have them do it because they're a part of that community. But just really, sometimes just introducing people and, might help.
To you both. I have now question number 2 for William. Hello, William. As your supports broker sought out your staffing, were you involved in the process of finding your staff members, such as being involved in the interview process? If so, did you enjoy the process, or what would you change about the process in finding your staff members? I'm done talking.
Yes, I interviewed people with Bradley.
Did you like it? Yeah.
Yes, I interviewed people with Bradley.
And did you like interviewing people with Bradley?
Yes.
And thank you, Brad.
No problem.
And I'll follow up for Brad and Eugenia. Is there anything else you would add based on your involvement in William's hiring process? We actually did get a related question. Somebody said, any advice on how and where to find wonderful direct support workers like Eugenia? Is there a website dedicated to this special population? Would love to hear from you guys.
So my experience, so it was funny. I mean, Indeed is a website that I use for not all of my recruiting, but a lot of it, because one part of being a supports broker is we have no budget. I'm never going to ask a parent or a family member for money for recruiting, because I don't think that's fair, because I work with families that have a wide range of means. And I don't think it's fair to, if there's a family that are millionaires, to say, hey, like, let's, give me a bunch of money and I'll get you gold-plated candidates or something. So I use Indeed, I use Craigslist, I use local colleges and universities. I use like my own networks of, I was in the arts community. I have found people in the arts community who have worked, just people who, work with other people. But those are, so just using a lot of different methods has definitely helped. Eugenia, she applied on a job posting I put out on Indeed probably 6-7 years ago, just like anybody else. And her resume really stood out to me. And then when I spoke to her on the phone, I knew that our journey was gonna be a long one. And
I need more Lego.
You can go get more Legos if you want. We're talking about shopping. We've actually been looking up clocks for a little bit, but also to add to your statement, Brad, I really love the success that you had with getting other workers through like partnerships with colleges and universities.
And you can go to like different, if for in William's case, maybe I'd go to the art department and see if there is like a student that's looking for something like this. And then the one last thing I want to add to that is, William and Terry are always going to be a part of the process. Like when in my best days, I will work with the family to create a job ad. And if it's someone like William, who I've known forever, it's easy to write. If it's someone I've just started working with, it's even more important for me to partner with that family, because I might not know the person that well. And we do phone screens, and sometimes I do them. I have had parents do them too, and I train them, work with them on how to do it in a way that's fair to all candidates. But then the in-person interviews, everyone is there. The person who's receiving the support is the most important person. They have to be there. And we might work together to have them ask questions. If it's someone like Will, we need to do that support ahead of time. For other people, they know the drill. We're always, together interviewing, and the ultimate decision is not mine on who to hire.
And it's the same here in Missouri. I mean, I use a lot of the local college. I have a university right here in town with me. I use a lot of the college kids that are into different programs. So I have individuals or staff that have been in speech therapy, and I have clients that need speech therapy. So I try to, I get to know the family, just like Brad says. I mean, it starts out getting to know the family and what they want and what the individual's needs are before you can really start looking for someone out there to fit the needs that they have. But, like Brad says, I mean, I use the college, I use the university, I use churches. Sometimes we even refer to family and try to set up family also sometimes. So I mean, there's really no secret or hidden staff out there. It's really a lot of legwork and looking in a lot of different places for people.
Well, thank you everybody for answering these questions. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Wait a second, I'm just seeing a message. Oh, great, okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I just wanna thank everybody who's been part of this panel so much for participating. This group really has come together and put a lot of energy and thought into everything they've shared today. And we're so grateful for that and grateful for this conversation. Obviously, we've gotten so many questions we couldn't address today, but I know at Applied Self-Direction, we want to continue to have these wonderful discussions about support brokerage specifically. So thank you everyone for being a part of this one.
Thank you.
Thanks, William. And thank you everyone for participating in our virtual conference series. This is the first one we've done as Applied Self-Direction. I think it's been a great success. It's been a joy to be able to bring people together from across the country who might not normally be able to attend in person. So thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.
Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a happy 4th of July, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you, Tina and Molly.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.